The bombardment lasted 6 seconds. 6 seconds was all it took for the human scout ship to cripple 3 Verith destroyers, breach the flagship's starboard hull, and vanish into the asteroid field like it had never existed. Princess Kalara of the Verith Empire stood frozen on the bridge, her violet skin pale beneath the emergency lighting. Around her, officers shouted damage reports through smoke and sparking consoles. The deck vibrated with hull breaches sealing themselves. "Status," Commander Vekrin barked, his forearms gripping the tactical console. "Destroyers Nightfall and Sovereign are drifting. Crimson Dawn reports reactor failure. We've lost 37 crew across the fleet." The weapons officer's voice cracked. "Your Highness, the humans, they only sent one ship." Kalara's throat tightened. The intelligence reports had called it a scout vessel. "Unarmed," they said. "Reconnaissance only," they promised. "Track it," she commanded, forcing steel into her voice. "Find where it went." "We can't, Princess. It's gone. Our sensors can't penetrate that deep into the field." Vekrin turned to her, his eyes wide. "Your Highness, we should retreat, regroup with the main fleet. If this is what their scouts can do, no." Kalara stepped toward the viewport, watching debris tumble past. Pieces of Verath ships. Her ships. "We came here to claim this system for the Empire. We will not flee from a single enemy vessel." "But Princess, I said no!" The bridge fell silent except for the hiss of fire suppressors and the groan of stressed metal. Kalara's hands trembled behind her back where no one could see. She had commanded fleets in simulation. She had studied warfare at the Imperial Academy for 10 cycles. She had never lost, not once. This was supposed to be easy. Humanity had only reached the stars 2 generations ago. They were primitives, newcomers. The Verith Empire had conquered 100 worlds before humans even discovered fire. "Princess," the communications officer said quietly. "Incoming transmission. It's from the human ship." Every eye turned to Kalara. "Put it through." Static filled the bridge. Then a voice, speaking perfect Verith through a translator. "Verith flagship, this is Lieutenant Hayes of the Earth Confederacy Scout Corps. You have entered restricted human territory. Turn back now or the next volley won't be a warning." Kalara's jaw clenched. "This is Princess Kalara, heir to the Verith throne. You dare threaten an Imperial fleet with a scout ship?" A pause. Then something that might have been laughter. "Ma'am, with respect, you just got your ass handed to you by a scout ship. Imagine what our actual warships would do." The transmission cut. Kalara stared at the empty static, her heart's pounding in her chest. Kalara's finger hovered over the pursuit command for 3 full seconds before Vekrin grabbed her wrist. "Princess, please. Think about this." She yanked her arm free. "I am thinking, Commander. I'm thinking that if we return to the Empire after being humiliated by a single scout ship, my father will have both our heads mounted in the throne room. Better our heads than our entire fleet turned to debris." Kalara wheeled on him. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't understand what just happened?" Her voice dropped to a hiss. "We lost, Vekrin. We lost to a ship that shouldn't even have weapons. How do I explain that to the War Council? How do I explain that to the Emperor?" The bridge crew pretended to focus on their stations, but she could feel their fear. It radiated from them like heat from a dying star. "Your Highness," the sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting something." Multiple signatures emerging from the asteroid field. Kalara's breath caught. "The scout ship?" "No, ma'am. These are different. Smaller, faster. I count 12 contacts. No, 15. They're moving in formation." Vekrin pulled up the tactical display. 15 red dots appeared, spreading out in a pattern that made Kalara's military training scream warnings she didn't want to hear. Perfect spacing, overlapping fields of fire. Textbook encirclement maneuver. "Hail them," she ordered. "Channel open, Your Highness. Human vessels, this is Princess Kalara. We are withdrawing from this system as requested. There is no need for further conflict." The response came immediately, but from a different voice this time. Older, harder. "Verith flagship, this is Captain Bennett, commanding the fighter wing from ESS Thunderchild. Funny thing about withdrawing, you should probably start doing it instead of just talking about it, fighter wing." Kalara felt ice spread through her veins. The scout ship had called reinforcements, and they'd arrived in minutes. How close had their carrier been? How long had the humans been watching? "Begin retreat vector," she told her helmsman. "Maximum sublight speed." The flagship's engines flared. Around them, the surviving destroyers limped into formation. "Human fighters are matching our speed," the sensor officer reported. "They're maintaining attack distance but not firing. They're escorting us out," Vekran said quietly, "making sure we leave." Kalara gripped the command rail hard enough to hurt. She watched the fighters on the display, moving with a precision that spoke of countless hours of training, of experience, of confidence. "Princess, I'm picking up something else." Big signature coming around the far side of the asteroid field. The display updated. Kalara's breath stopped. The human carrier was 3 times the size of her flagship. Its hull bristled with launch bays and weapon emplacements. Even from this distance, she could see fighters launching in waves, spreading out like a net. "ES Thunderchild," the communications officer whispered. "Dreadnought-class carrier. I'm reading weapons signatures that match nothing in our database." "How many fighters can it carry?" Kalara asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. "Based on the launch bays visible, at least 200, Your Highness." 200. They had faced 15 and felt lucky to be alive. Captain Bennett's voice crackled through again. "Princess Kalara, just so we're clear on something. That scout ship you fought? Lieutenant Hayes graduated top of his class 6 months ago. This was his first solo patrol. Thought you should know that before you decide whether to come back." The transmission ended. Kalara stood perfectly still, processing the words. 6 months, first patrol, top of his class, which meant there were others who'd trained longer, fought longer, survived longer. "Your Highness?" Vekran's voice was gentle. "Orders?" She looked at the carrier on the display, at the fighters swarming around it like insects around a hive. She thought about the scout ship, about Lieutenant Hayes and his casual confidence. She thought about the Empire's intelligence reports, about how wrong they had been. "Set course for Imperial space," she said quietly. "Maximum jump speed the moment we clear the gravity well." "Yes, Your Highness." The bridge remained silent as they fled. No one mentioned victory. No one mentioned glory. Kalara watched the human carrier shrink on the display and wondered what kind of species builds weapons this devastating and gives them to their children barely out of training. She wondered what their veterans could do. The thought terrified her more than she would ever admit. The jump to Imperial space took 14 hours. 14 hours of silence broken only by damage reports and the quiet weeping of injured crew in the medical bay. Kalara spent most of it in her quarters, staring at classified files she'd never bothered to read before. Files about humanity. Files her father's intelligence officers had compiled and marked as low priority. She read them now with mounting dread. Humans had fought themselves for 10,000 years before reaching the stars. They had created weapons capable of destroying their own planet multiple times over, then chose not to use them. They had survived ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts, and their own worst impulses. They called it history. The Verath called it insanity. Her door chimed. "Enter!" Veckreen stepped inside, his expression grim. "We're approaching the border station, Your Highness. Admiral Thorn is demanding a real-time briefing before we proceed to the homeworld." Kalara closed the files. "Of course he is." The view screen activated, and Admiral Thorn's scarred face filled it. Behind him, Kalara could see the bridge of the Dreadnought Executor, the pride of the Fifth Fleet. 50 ships under his command, the hammer of the Empire. Princess Kalara. His voice carried the weight of 4 decades of military service. "I've read your preliminary report. Tell me it's exaggerated." "It's not, Admiral." Thorn's 4 eyes narrowed. "You're telling me that a single human scout vessel disabled 3 destroyers and damaged your flagship in under 10 seconds. 6 seconds, sir. I'm telling you exactly that." "And you withdrew." "I withdrew after their carrier arrived with a full fighter complement." "Yes, sir." Thorn leaned back in his chair. Around him, Kalara could see his officers exchanging glances. The intelligence reports said humans were technologically inferior, fractured, still adapting to space combat. "The intelligence reports were wrong, Admiral." "Catastrophically wrong. Then we'll correct them with overwhelming force." Thorn gestured off screen. "I'm dispatching a battle group. 20 ships. We'll show these upstart primates what happens when they embarrass the Empire." Kalara shot to her feet. "Admiral, no. You don't understand what we faced out there." "I understand perfectly, Princess. You encountered an enemy who got lucky with the first strike. It happens. We respond with strength. This wasn't luck. Their weapons technology is beyond anything we've seen. Their tactics were flawless. Their pilot was 6 months out of training, and he destroyed us." Thorn's expression hardened. "Are you questioning my judgment, Your Highness?" The formal title, spoken like a weapon. Kalara felt the trap closing. If she pushed too hard, she'd be relieved of command, sent home in disgrace. But if she stayed silent, she'd be sending Verath warriors to their deaths. "I'm advising caution, Admiral. The humans aren't what we thought they were." "Noted. Your advice is logged. Now, you will rendezvous with Battle Group 7 at coordinates I'm transmitting now. You will provide tactical support and detailed intelligence on human vessel capabilities. Clear?" Kalara's hands clenched at her sides. "Crystal clear, Admiral." "Good." Thorn out. The screen went dark. Veckreen moved beside her. "He's going to get them all killed." "I know. We have to warn them. Really warn them. Make them understand." Kalara turned to her tactical officer. "Pull up everything we recorded during the engagement. Every scan, every energy signature, every millisecond of combat data." "Yes, Your Highness." The data scrolled across her personal terminal. She studied it with fresh eyes, looking for anything that might convince Thorn to reconsider. The human weapons fired projectiles accelerated to relativistic speeds. Their targeting systems had predicted Verath evasive maneuvers before they happened. Their shields had absorbed fire from 3 ships without even flickering. And that was a scout ship. "Your Highness," the communications officer called from the bridge. "Incoming message from Battle Group 7. Admiral Thorn wants us on station in 6 hours. 6 hours until they jumped back into human space. 6 hours until Thorn learned what Kalara already knew." She pulled up the intelligence files again, scrolling to a section she'd skipped before. Human military doctrine. She read it now, her blood running cold. The humans had a saying, "Peace through superior firepower." Another one, "Walk softly and carry a big stick." And one more that made her hand shake, "Don't start fights, but always finish them." They weren't explorers playing at war. They were warriors who'd spent millennia perfecting the art of killing each other, now united against external threats. "Vecrin," she said quietly, "what's the most dangerous predator in Verith history? The Shadow Stalker of Vec Prime. Why? Because they hunted alone. They were patient. They studied their prey before striking." She looked at him. "The humans sent one scout ship. One. They watched us respond. They studied how we fight. And now Admiral Thorn is about to show them exactly how our battle groups operate." Understanding dawned in Vecrin's eyes. They're collecting intelligence, and we're giving it to them. Kalara turned back to her terminal. "Get me a secure channel to the Admiral, personal encryption. I'm going to try one more time. He won't listen, Your Highness. I know, but I have to try." The channel opened. Thorn's face appeared, irritation evident. "This better be important, Princess."
Admiral, please.
"I'm begging you to reconsider this attack. The humans are more dangerous than—" "Enough!" Thorn's voice cracked like thunder. "I've reviewed the data. I've consulted with my tactical staff. Your assessment is colored by fear and inexperience. Battle Group 7 will proceed as planned. You will provide support or you will be relieved. Choose now." Kalara met his glare, her heart sinking. "I'll provide support, sir." "Smart choice. See you in 6 hours." Thorn out. The screen died again. Kalara stood alone in her quarters, surrounded by files about humanity's endless capacity for violence, and wondered how many Verith warriors would die before the Empire learned what she already knew. They had kicked a sleeping predator. And it was waking up angry. Battle Group 7 assembled like a steel constellation against the void. 20 Verath warships, each one a monument to Imperial engineering. Kalara's flagship took position at the rear, where Thorn had placed her, away from the glory, away from the first strike, away from the slaughter she knew was coming. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Thorn's tactical officer announced across the fleet channel. Kalara watched from her bridge as the battle group oriented toward human space. Thorn's executor led the formation, flanked by heavy cruisers. Destroyers spread in a protective screen. It was textbook Varath doctrine, refined over centuries of conquest. It would be useless against the humans. "Princess," Vecrin whispered, "the Admiral is ailing us." Thorn's face appeared on a private channel. "You'll observe and learn, Your Highness. Watch how real warriors handle upstart species. Admiral, I strongly urge, observation only, Princess." Thorn out. The channel closed before she could finish. "Jump in 30 seconds, the helmsman announced. Kalara gripped her command rail and prayed to gods she'd stopped believing in years ago. The universe twisted, stars blurred. Reality bent around them as the battle group dropped into human territory, emerging at the exact coordinates where Kalara had first encountered Lieutenant Hayes. Empty space greeted them. No scout ship, no fighters, no carrier. "Sensor sweep," Thorn ordered across the fleet channel. "Find them." Kalara's sensor officer worked his console, then froze. "Your Highness, I'm detecting a single contact, dead ahead. Range 200,000 kilometers. The tactical display updated. One ship, small, familiar configuration. It's another scout ship," Vecrin breathed. Thorn's laugh boomed across the channel. "Perfect! Let's send these humans a message they won't forget. All ships, weapons hot. Target that scout and turn it to vapor. Admiral, wait." Kalara broke protocol, transmitting on the command frequency. "This is a trap. They're baiting you." "I gave you an order, Princess. Observation only." Thorn's voice went cold. Fire. 20 Verith warships opened up simultaneously, Energy beams lanced across space. Missile clusters erupted from launch tubes. The combined firepower could have leveled a continent. The human scout ship flickered and vanished. "What?" Thorn started. "Hologram!" Kalara's sensor officer shouted. It was a holographic projection. "The real contacts are," his voice rose to a scream, "everywhere! Contacts everywhere." The tactical display exploded with red markers. 50, 100, 200. They materialized from every angle, dropping out of some kind of stealth field that Vareth sensors couldn't detect until it was too late. "All ships! Evasive maneuvers!" Thorn roared. "Return fire!" But the humans were already firing. Kalara watched in horror as streams of relativistic projectiles tore through the Vareth formation. The destroyer Pride of Vector simply ceased to exist, shredded by impacts moving at nearly light speed. The cruiser Stormbreaker's shields collapsed under concentrated fire from 10 different angles. "They're using coordinated targeting!" Vecrin shouted over the chaos. "Each ship is being engaged by multiple human vessels simultaneously." The Executor shook as impacts hammered its shields. Thorn was screaming orders, but his formation was already breaking apart. Ships scattered, trying to find cover that didn't exist, trying to fight an enemy that moved faster and hit harder than anything the Empire had ever faced. "Princess, 3 human ships are breaking off from the main engagement," her tactical officer reported. "Heading toward us. Evasive pattern Delta. Keep our distance from the main battle." Kalara kept her voice steady through sheer force of will. "All power to shields and engines." The 3 human ships accelerated, closing the gap with terrifying speed. They were sleek, angular, covered in weapons ports that blazed with each volley. "Incoming transmission," communications reported. "Put it through." A woman's voice filled the bridge, calm despite the battle raging around them. "Vareth flagship, this is Commander Lopez of the ESS Ravager. Stand down and withdraw. This is your only warning." Kalara didn't hesitate. "All ships in my squadron cease fire and begin retreat vector. Maximum speed." "Your Highness," one of her destroyer captains protested, "the Admiral is about to die." Kalara snapped. "Follow my orders or join him." Her 3 remaining ships broke formation and burned hard away from the engagement. The human ships pursuing them slowed, then stopped, apparently satisfied with the withdrawal. Behind them, Battle Group 7 was being systematically dismantled. Kalara watched on long-range sensors as Thorn's Executor took hit after hit. Its shields collapsed. Hull breaches vented atmosphere. The proud dreadnought that had conquered a dozen worlds tumbled through space, bleeding fire and bodies. "Admiral Thorn's ship is gone," Vecrin said quietly. 17 other ships destroyed, 2 surrendering. 20 ships. The hammer of the 5th Fleet, destroyed in less than 4 minutes. "Your Highness, the human commander is hailing us again." Commander Lopez's face appeared on screen. She looked tired. Not triumphant. Just tired. "Princess Kalara, right? The one who had the sense to run the first time?" "Yes. Smart. Tell your Emperor something for me. Tell him this was a defensive fleet. Border Patrol. We've got 50 more just like it scattered across human space, and that's not counting our actual battle fleets." Lopez leaned forward. "You seem smarter than your admiral was. Don't make us show you what our real warships can do." The transmission ended. Kalara stood on her bridge, surrounded by the wreckage of Imperial pride, and finally understood the terrible truth. The humans hadn't been lucky. They'd been holding back. The Emperor's throne room could have swallowed Kalara's flagship whole. Pillars of polished obsidian stretched toward a vaulted ceiling where conquered worlds were displayed in holographic glory. 50 systems, 100 colonies. The Vareth Empire's dominion, built over 3,000 years of unbroken expansion. Kalara knelt before the throne, her head bowed, and waited for her father to pronounce sentence. Emperor Vekthar sat in silence, reviewing the combat recordings for the third time. Around him, the War Council stood motionless, their faces carved from stone. Grand Admiral Keshen, High Strategist Marak, Lord Commander Vesh, the minds that had guided the Empire's military for generations. They'd all watched their doctrines fail in real time. "Rise, daughter," the Emperor said finally. Kalara stood, meeting her father's eyes. They were the same violet as hers, but harder, colder, shaped by decades of absolute power. "You disobeyed Admiral Thorne's direct order to maintain observation status," Vektar said. "You withdrew from battle without permission. You abandoned the fleet. I saved the ships that would listen, Father. The alternative was complete annihilation. The alternative was fighting with honor." The words echoed through the throne room. Kalara didn't flinch. "Honor doesn't stop relativistic projectiles, Father. Neither does tradition or pride or 3,000 years of conquest." The humans destroyed Battle Group 7 in 4 minutes. "If I had stayed, you'd be planning 5 funerals instead of 1. Grand Admiral Keshen stepped forward, his age-worn face twisted with anger. "Your Majesty, the princess shows cowardice unbecoming of imperial blood. She should be stripped of rank and—" "And what, Admiral?" Kalara turned on him. "Executed? Exiled? Will that bring back Admiral Thorne? Will it resurrect the 3,000 warriors who died because our intelligence was wrong and our pride was limitless? You dare speak to the Grand Admiral with such—" "I dare because I'm the only one in this room who's actually fought the humans." Voice rang off the pillars. "I'm the only one who's watched our best ships burn. I'm the only one who understands what we're facing." Silence fell like a hammer. High Strategist Marek spoke, his voice measured. "Your Highness, help us understand. The humans are a young species, 2 generations in space. Our projections showed them fragmented, still learning basic void combat. How are we so wrong?" Kalara pulled up a holographic display showing the engagement data. "Because we measured them against ourselves. We looked at their technology and saw primitive designs. We looked at their scattered colonies and saw weakness. We looked at their short history in space and saw inexperience." She zoomed in on the human ship movements during the second battle. "We didn't look at what they were before they reached space. We didn't consider what it means when a species fights itself for 10,000 years and survives. When they build weapons that can destroy their own world multiple times over and choose not to use them." Lord Commander Vesh leaned forward.
"What are you saying?"
"I'm saying we've never fought anyone like them. Every species we've conquered reached the stars through cooperation."
"They developed technology slowly, peacefully. They built societies based on unity and collective purpose." Kalara's hands shook as she manipulated the display. "Humans reach space through competition, through conflict, through warfare. Every advancement they made came from trying to kill each other more efficiently." She pulled up the human military doctrine files. "They don't just have warriors, Father. Their entire species is built on the concept of conflict and survival. They've fought through ice ages and plagues and extinction events. They've survived things that would have destroyed the Vareth 10 times over." Emperor Vekthar studied the data, his expression unreadable. "Continue. The scout ship that defeated me, piloted by a lieutenant 6 months out of training. The defensive fleet that destroyed Battle Group 7? They called it Border Patrol." "Not their main fleet. Not their elite forces. Border Patrol." Kalara zoomed in on the ESS Ravager's specs. and Commander Lopez, the officer who commanded them. She looked tired afterward. Not excited, not proud. Tired, like she'd done this 1,000 times before and was bored of it. Grand Admiral Cation scoffed. You're suggesting we retreat from a species of primitives because they won 2 skirmishes? I'm suggesting we stop before they show us what they're really capable of. Kalara met her father's eyes. The humans have been holding back, Father. Everything we've seen so far has been them being polite, being restrained, giving us chances to leave. Proof, the Emperor demanded. Kalara pulled up the final transmission from Commander Lopez. She told me they have 50 defensive fleets like the one that destroyed Battle Group 7. And then she said those weren't even their real warships. The War Council exchanged glances. She's lying, Cation insisted, trying to scare us. Is she? Kalara pulled up energy signature analyses. Our sensors detected weapon systems on human ships that we can't identify, shielding technology that operates on principles we don't understand, propulsion that outpaces our fastest vessels by 30%. If they're lying about their strength, they're doing it while already being stronger than us. High strategist Merrick studied the data, his analytical mind working. If what the princess says is true, if the humans are this formidable, why haven't they expanded aggressively? Why do they hold only 15 systems when they could clearly take more? Because they don't want more, Kalara said quietly. I've been reading their history. They fought 2 global wars that killed hundreds of millions. They've seen what unchecked aggression costs. They learned restraint the hard way. She looked around at the War Council. But restraint isn't weakness. It's a choice. And every choice can be unmade. Emperor Vecthar rose from his throne, descending the steps toward his daughter. You believe we cannot defeat them. I believe trying will destroy the Empire, Father. We've never lost before. We've never had to consider surrender or negotiation. But the humans aren't like anyone we've faced. They're what we would be if we'd spent 3,000 years fighting ourselves instead of conquering others. The Emperor stopped before her, studying her face. What do you recommend? Kalara took a breath. I recommend we do something the Vareth Empire has never done in its entire history. I recommend we talk to them. Not as conquerors, not as their superiors, as equals. Grand Admiral Keshin exploded. Equals? Your Majesty, this is madness. We are the Vareth Empire. We do not negotiate with enough. The Emperor's voice cut through the protest like a blade. He continued to stare at Kalara. You would have me humble the Empire before primitives? I would have you save it, Father, because if we fight the humans with everything we have, we might win. We might actually win. But what will be left afterward? How many worlds will burn? How many warriors will die? And what happens when other species see that the mighty Vareth Empire bled itself dry fighting newcomers? The questions hung in the air, unanswered. Emperor Vecthar returned to his throne. He sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of 3,000 years of conquest pressing down on his shoulders. Summon the human ambassador, he said finally, if they have one. The human ambassador arrived in a ship smaller than a Vareth shuttle. Kalara watched from the palace observation deck as it descended, escorted by a full squadron of Imperial fighters. The contrast was almost insulting. 50 Vareth warriors to guard one human in an unarmed diplomatic vessel. She wondered if the human found it amusing. Ambassador Chen is requesting permission to land, the communications officer reported. Emperor Vecthar stood beside Kalara, his ceremonial armor gleaming. Granted, and tell the honor guard to stand down. We're not threatening our guest. The throne room had been prepared for formal reception. Banners of conquest lined the walls. The War Council stood in full regalia, every detail designed to project power and dominance. Kalara thought it looked desperate. The doors opened. Ambassador Chen walked in alone. She was shorter than most Verith, her dark hair streaked with gray. She wore a simple suit, no weapons, no armor. She walked like someone who'd seen battle but chose diplomacy anyway. Her eyes scanned the throne room with professional detachment, cataloging exits and threats from habit. "Emperor Vekthar," she said, her voice clear through the translator, "thank you for agreeing to meet. Ambassador Chen, welcome to the Imperial homeworld." Vector gestured to the seat positioned across from his throne. "Please." Chen sat without hesitation, meeting the Emperor's gaze with calm confidence. "I assume Princess Kalara provided the combat data from both engagements?" "She did. Then you know what happens if this continues." Grand Admiral Keshen bristled. "You threaten the Empire in its own throne room?" Chen turned to him with a slight smile. "Admiral, I'm not threatening anyone. I'm stating facts. Your forces engaged ours twice. Both times you lost. Badly. That's not a threat. That's history. History we intend to correct," Keishin growled. "With what?" Chen's voice remained pleasant. "Another battle group? 5 battle groups? Your entire fleet?" She leaned back in her chair. "Let me save you some time. We've run the simulations. If the Varath Empire commits its full military strength against human space, you'll win. Eventually, after losing 60% of your forces and turning a dozen worlds into graveyards." The throne room fell silent. "And then what?" Chen continued. "You'll hold burned systems while every other species in the galaxy watches the mighty Verith Empire bleed. How long before someone decides you're weak enough to challenge? How long before your own colonies start wondering if the Emperor can protect them?" Emperor Vekthar's expression didn't change, but Kalara saw his hands tighten on the throne's armrests. "You seem very confident in your analysis, Ambassador. I've studied the Verith Empire for 5 years, Your Majesty. Your expansion patterns, military doctrine, economic dependencies. You're powerful, disciplined, terrifying to most species." Chen paused. "But you've never fought someone who could actually hurt you back. Not really. Every war you've won came from overwhelming superiority. And you claim humanity can provide what? Equality in battle? No, Your Majesty. I claim we can provide something worse. Mutual destruction. Neither of us wants that." Kalara stepped forward. "Then what do you want, Ambassador?" Chen turned to her with what looked like genuine respect. "Smart question, Princess. We want what we've always wanted, to be left alone. 15 systems. Room to grow. Trade partners, not masters. The Empire does not negotiate territory," Keishin declared. "Then the Empire is about to learn a hard lesson," Chen replied. "We're keeping ours. The only question is whether that happens peacefully or after both our civilizations spend decades killing each other." High Strategist Marak spoke up. "Ambassador, suppose we accept this premise. What prevents humanity from expanding aggressively once we recognize your borders? What stops you from becoming the threat you claim to defend against?" "Good question." Chen pulled out a datapad. "I'm authorized to propose a mutual defense treaty, fixed borders for both our nations, trade agreements, cultural exchange, regular diplomatic contact, and most importantly, a non-aggression pact with verification protocols. You want us to trust you? No, Strategist. I want us to verify each other. Trust is earned. We're offering a framework to earn it." Emperor Vekthar studied the human ambassador in silence. Kalara could see her father's mind working, weighing options, calculating outcomes. And if we refuse? He asked quietly. Chen's expression didn't change. Then the ESS Thunderchild and 49 ships like it will continue border patrol. Our defensive fleets will remain on alert. And the next time you send warships into human space, we'll respond with overwhelming force. She paused. But I really hope you don't refuse, Your Majesty, because my government sent me here instead of sending Admiral Cortez and the Third Battle Fleet. That should tell you something. What should it tell me? That we'd rather talk than fight. That we understand war costs everyone, even the winners. That humanity learned some very hard lessons about the price of endless conflict. Chen leaned forward. We're offering you a chance to learn those lessons the easy way, Emperor, through words instead of blood. The throne room remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Emperor Vector rose. Ambassador Chen, you have given us much to consider. We will review your proposal and respond within 3 cycles. That's all I ask, Your Majesty. Chen stood and bowed, a gesture of respect between equals. Thank you for hearing me out. As the ambassador left, Kalara approached her father. You're actually considering this. I'm considering not destroying everything our ancestors built, fighting an enemy we don't need to fight. Vector looked at his daughter. You were right, Kalara, about the humans. About our pride blinding us, about the cost of continuing this path. Grand Admiral Keshin stepped forward. Your Majesty, surely you're not suggesting we accept these terms? I'm suggesting, Admiral, that winning a war isn't the same as making the right choice. The Emperor turned to his war council. We came to the stars as conquerors. Perhaps it's time we learn to be neighbors instead. Kalara watched her father walk away, the weight of empire on his shoulders, and felt something she hadn't felt since the first battle, hope. 3 weeks later, the Treaty of New Geneva was signed. The Verath Empire and Earth Confederacy established formal diplomatic relations, fixed borders, and mutual trade agreements. Kalara attended the ceremony as the Empire's official representative. She stood across from Commander Lopez, who'd been promoted to Admiral, and Lieutenant Hayes, who'd been given a commendation for tactical excellence. Hayes caught her eye and grinned. No hard feelings about the whole combat thing, right, Princess? Kalara surprised herself by laughing. None at all, Lieutenant, though I'd appreciate if you'd stop making Imperial warfare look easy. Can't promise that, ma'am. It's kind of our thing. As the ceremony concluded and humans and Verath mingled awkwardly but peacefully, Kalara realized something profound. The Empire hadn't lost. It had evolved. And sometimes evolution meant learning when not to fight. The humans had taught them that lesson with superior firepower and superior restraint. It was, she reflected, the most human thing imaginable.